This video is sponsored by Ridge. More on them later.
Los videojuegos viven y mueren por su creatividad. Si puedes tropezar con una idea que se pueda moldear en un montón de conceptos diferentes, entonces lo llevarás hasta el banco durante el mayor tiempo posible. Pero bueno, si puede omitir algunos pasos utilizando el personaje y el videojuego de otra persona, es como definitivamente es ilegal.
Bootlegs are truly wonderful things. When you play most video games, you can expect a certain amount of consideration from the person or group of people who made it, like a mutual non-verbal agreement to provide some expectation-pleasing entertainment that more or less acts as some sort of value for money. Bootlegs are different though, and they are so happy to shamelessly recycle copyrighted characters and elements from other video games to help create their own vision of a game. They've been around for decades and have come from so many different countries across the world that naturally, there's been a pretty large pile of them that make you question the very fabric of our reality. Seeing a recognised character in such a weird environment is like seeing a friend's mum in a strip club and only slightly less scarring. That's probably the biggest issue if you're sitting down at a strip club, but I don't have as much to worry about these days now that I don't store my wallet in my back pocket, but it might be encouraging to hear that I was once like you. I used to own a chunky leather wallet that made it look like my Brazilian butt lift had gone horribly wrong, but one day I saw the light and was saved by Ridge, who were kind enough to sponsor today's video with their incredibly sturdy wallets that are available in more than 30 colours and can hold up to 12 cards that you can now carry around in your front pocket with a bit of style. Plus, Ridge were also kind enough to send me their waterproof commuter backpack with a shock-resistant laptop holder and their larger Weekender duffel bag, which both have an external USB port for on-the-go charging, and when the world stops being on fire, I'm going to be using these a lot. Ridge comes with a lifetime warranty, so you can buy one wallet for the rest of your life if you so wish, with a 45-day return window for a free refund if you're not such a fan. Get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping and returns by going to ridge.com/RabbidLuigi and using the code RabbidLuigi. It's time to move your wallet into the future.
Está bien, veamos qué tan raros pueden llegar a ser los juegos falsos. Por favor, no me arrestes.
Pokemon is a goddamn goldmine for weird and wild bootlegs. That's probably got something to do with Pokemon being such a global phenomenon with instantly recognizable mascots and iconography, so if you're in the business of creating bootlegs, you'd be a fool not to smuggle aboard that bandwagon. The bootlegs have got Pikachu doing all sorts of crazy things that I'm sure Game Freak would take exception to if they cared enough to find out, but I've got a bit of a soft spot for those bootlegs that try to make their own game. Pocket Monsters is one such bootleg that gives the spotlight over to Pikachu to run amok with, which hasn't exactly worked all that often when Nintendo have done it themselves. It kinda taints any chance of success when you've got Hey You Pikachu, Pokemon Channel, Pokemon Dash, all showing how bad a Pikachu-led video game can be. So you're saying there's an opening in the market? I really do appreciate bootlegs that are their own game for the most part, and while there's clearly a lot stolen from Pokemon games, Pocket Monsters is a platformer through and through. Not a good platformer, mind you, but if you're coming here expecting the best of the best, I'm afraid you've come to the wrong video, my friend, and should turn back as soon as possible. That being said, Pocket Monsters is a terrible game all the same, because every jump you make with Pikachu slows the game down to a crawl, which wouldn't be so much of a problem if Pikachu's walk cycle wasn't so fast, leaving you with two wildly different game speeds that make simple platforming a complete lottery. I do like the idea of a Pokemon platformer though, even if Pocket Monsters can't quite get all the right pieces in the right places and occasionally throws enemies at you that have no business being anywhere near a Pokemon game. I do not trust the blue slug, and neither should you. Special mention to the game over screen, which are generally pretty wild with bootlegs, but in Pocket Monsters, it's a sad, bruised Pikachu looking like something that Peter would use to promote their shitty practices. Hey, it wasn't my fault. I got beaten up by the level.
¿Crees que Game Freak alguna vez haría un juego de plataformas de Pokémon? Espera.
Are they all still there? I think they are. Do you reckon Game Freak would ever make a Pokemon platformer? I feel like they're a little bit busy remaking Gen 4 and, doing different things with Legends Arceus, but there is a gap in the market that hasn't been done before that they could definitely exploit. Although maybe they'd be stepping on Mario's toes too much. I'm just saying that He's been pretty quiet ever since Pocket Monsters dropped. He needs to get on the level. There's a bit of a blending of ideas of both illegal bootlegs and slightly more legal fan-made ROM hacks. ROM hacks generally don't pretend to be legitimate releases and are perfectly happy to lean into more unbelievable premises and ideas, safe in the knowledge that no one playing this is expecting a professionally constructed video game. Fat Sonic. They do both speak to the idea of a fantasy video game though, people making video games in a way that they would want, that hopefully lines up with what others want too. And so we arrive at World Heroes 2, which is an actual licensed video game released in 1993 with help from SNK, and yeah, it's a pretty decent arcade fighting game. We're not going to talk about it though, because turns out there's a bootleg called World Heroes 2 which came out in 1994, and it's a little bit different. Is that Goku? I'm pretty sure that's Goku. Bootleggers love a fighting game, and few bootlegs out there capture this chaotic essence better than the illegal version of World Heroes 2, which I should emphasize has very little to do with SNK's game, with the bootleg seemingly being built onto something from Fatal Fury. So it basically steals the name and not a lot else, because World Heroes 2 has far loftier ambitions of being the fighting game that appeals to every demographic ever made. That's why we got characters crossing over from fighting games like Ryu and Chun-Li from Street Fighter, and Mike Haggar from Final Fight, along with Mario and Sonic, and yes, Goku from Dragon Ball, and that is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. What the fuck? It's Smash Bros ahead of its time, dialed up to 11, and with no restraint when it comes to choosing characters. Honestly, I think we're lucky that Konisoft? Why does that feel like an amalgamation of Sony and Microsoft at a time when neither were really making games? We're lucky that Konisoft put this together in the 90s, because you fast forward a decade and I'm sorry, but this game has Shrek without a doubt in my mind. Hey, I think the cast do quite well up against Goku. Maybe you should be in Smash Bros. I've got to say, I know that most bootlegs come from countries that prefer to speak a language other than English, but I feel like we've done pretty well so far to have bootlegs with titles that actually kind of mean something when translated to English. You know, that's quite nice. Although I suppose it's never going to last, because the two countries that are most prominent with bootlegs are Russia and China, and they sure do have a way with words. At least I think they do. You know, I tried really hard with this one, but as a slightly less famous bootleg, I couldn't find an easy English translation for, and I'm so sorry to anyone watching this in China, Mingzu Kudai Gaishu. I ran it through Google Translate a few times to try to find the best translation I could find, and eventually it kicked out Pearl Pocket Turner, which I suppose makes sense as a few words that could be used to describe a video game. In case you're wondering why I went to all this effort for a bootleg, I feel like the lack of an officially accepted English name adds to the weirdness. Not that this bootleg needs much help, because as you can see, it's another one featuring Pokemon, but this time it's an RPG with a very un-Pokemon-like battle system. It's still fairly faithful to the Pokemon IP though. You've got Flareon, Zubat, Scary Monster, Mushroom Thing. Wait a second. Sound the alarm, this is not a drill! Mingzhu Kudu Gangrene is a bootleg featuring Pokemon and Digimon characters together. Finally, together at last, after so many years of fighting a one-sided war, they've put their differences aside to star in this weird RPG that starts up with simply the word speed. There's definitely a lot of character art in this game that seems to have been influenced by that, but apart from that, and, you know, the most ambitious crossover of all time, what stands out to me the most is how the Pokemon talk to you. Not like the sound effects of Pokemon cry, I mean actual words. I mean, they talk Chinese, so I can't give you much of an inside track on what it is they're saying to Gary Oak over here, but it's just another layer of ridiculousness that helps give Pearl Pocket Turner a ton more character and uniqueness. Apparently it's a sequel, but I can't find much at all about the original game before this, although frankly, in a medium where you've got games like Sonic & Knuckles 5 and Sonic Adventure 8, I think we're just gonna have to live with that. What do you mean none of this makes any sense? Sometimes a bootleg title stands out above the rest as something that you just have to experience for yourself. Quite often a lot of meaning gets lost in translation and you end up with a title that only kinda describes the game in any detail, but for all those strangely titled bootlegs, we have something as straightforward as Kart Fighter. Which does initially seem like a weird title when you first see some gameplay of it, where it's just a bunch of Mario characters beating the shit out of each other, but it opens on a modified version of Super Mario Kart's title screen, so I guess it's perfectly named. Are you trying to tell me that you've never played Mario Kart and thought that all these characters should pull over, get out of their cars, and fight each other to the death? This is the kind of vision that you only find in Hummer Team, who are also responsible for creating Samari, a bootleg of Sonic the Hedgehog where Sonic has been replaced by Mario. They're a group of goddamn pioneers! The turnaround from Super Mario Kart to Kart Fighter was incredibly short, only about a year or so, and yeah, I know that development in the 90s was pretty quick, but you know, it's still very impressive work ethic to see a popular Nintendo game and crank out a bootleg that aims to take the popularity and turn it into some of your own success. Though I suppose that's kind of how these companies get the popularity, because you can't exactly make the game 4 or 5 years later. You know, it's not like we're still talking about the games now. Not gonna lie, I'm a little disappointed that the cast of Mario Kart don't wear their vehicles like Gundams and do battle with those, but Kart Fighter still has a ton of wild ideas that justify its existence as something transformative and deeply confusing. It's a fighting game built on the framework of Street Fighter 2, which would explain why everyone has a projectile attack, starring everyone's favourites from Mario Kart like Luigi, Peach, Donkey, Mary, Yoshi. Wow, now I know how everyone feels when I say Yoshi differently. The rabbit hole goes deeper than that though, since this is a fighting game featuring Nintendo characters 6 years before Smash Bros stumbled along the same concept, and there is something undeniably surreal about seeing Mario characters fighting each other away from the comparative whimsy of Smash Bros. Like, that Koopa Trooper is fucking dead, and Mary couldn't be happier. Also, I can't help but notice that Peach is wearing a miniskirt, which she wouldn't do until Mario Tennis 7 years later, and thigh-high boots, which I feel like she's never done outside of certain websites. Obviously it isn't a good game, despite being built on Street Fighter 2's engine, but there's a surprising amount of effort with all of the original artwork and animation for characters that I think just makes the whole thing weirder. It's a popularity sponge that someone put a lot of time into. What kind of crazy fool would do something like that? Despite how ridiculous these games have been, you'd have to say that nothing so far has been completely unbelievable. I mean, there's definitely some creative uses of well-known characters that I never expected to see doing certain things, but at least everything we've mentioned so far has business being a video game. I guess that's the bar that needs clearing with a number one pick. You need something that stops you in your tracks and recontextualizes the entire basis of what bootlegs are, with their ability to turn the fucking Titanic into a video game. The hit film and the infamous maritime disaster. Maybe don't turn this into a video game? Did the creators base this off the movie, not knowing that the movie is based off of something that probably shouldn't be a video game? So I suppose I should address how this qualifies as a bootleg, because it doesn't star any game's intellectual property, but of course, Titanic, with an E, is based off the very successful 1997 film, which absolutely has characters in it that aren't part of the public domain, so there's no problem with its legitimacy as part of this video, but that's not really how you should be looking at a game that is in clear violation of something far worse. It is kind of wonderful though, looking through into a world moments from tragedy with the balls to the wall beat-em-up filter, where the biggest danger to these people isn't the giant lump of ice on the horizon, but the maniac laying out every man, woman and animal on this boat. It actually plays really well, which definitely makes this the strangest bootleg I've ever played, because you just don't expect this sort of quality in a game that repurposes the fucking Titanic! Oh, shit, sorry. Titanic is an original creation, and any similarities to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. And that's why spelling mistakes are your friends. I would love to know what the creators were thinking when they made Titanic, because a beat-em-up based on, at the time, the highest grossing film of all time is a decent idea, but you gotta read the room. This is RabbidLuigi, and if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and if you want to watch something else, there's a video right here about failed reboots that you may enjoy. I also want to thank my top supporters on Patreon, including the Green Scorpion, AJ887 and Sarah Malion. Thank you for watching, And, you know, try and create something original once in a while.